Conflict of interest.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Wow, this conference, it's great, isn't it? I've been having a great time so far. How about you?
Yeah, wonderful. Good.
I'd like to start my talk with a little test for you. I want you to imagine that a good friend of yours has just had a baby. Unfortunately, the baby is rather unattractive. Very unattractive, in fact. Your friend asks you, "Isn't she the most gorgeous baby you have ever seen?" What do you say? Honesty. That's important for you. On the other hand, you don't want to hurt your friend's feelings. You've got a dilemma here. Now, this is a rather small dilemma, and it's probably easy for most people to solve it. But what about situations like the following? Imagine you're responsible for selecting a winner of a scholarship. A good friend of yours applies for the job. Your friend is qualified, but then another applicant who is even more qualified applies for the same scholarship. The second applicant probably needs the scholarship even more than your friend. It is your decision alone. Who do you give the scholarship to? These are all examples of moral or ethical dilemmas. There are different ways that we can address them. For the rest of my presentation, I'd like to offer you frameworks and theories on just how we can deal with a moral dilemma or conflict. Thinking through these theories can help us, I believe, make the best choices when we have these kinds of difficult situations. Now, don't be intimidated by the big words I'm going to use. Each one of these theories I'll explain as clearly as possible. For example, you can look at resolving ethical conflicts using a consequential theory or non-consequential theory. As the words indicate, these all have to do with the consequences of our actions. Let's begin firstly with consequential theories. A consequential theory states that your actions are judged by the results. An action that produces a good result must be morally right. If the action doesn't produce a good result, then it must be wrong. So, for example, imagine a factory that is polluting the environment. If we close the factory, then we will have cleaner air and water. So, closing the factory is the correct thing to do as it produces a good result. Pause there for a second. What is a good result? Is a good result something that merely is good for you and your own interests, or is it good if it produces the greatest ratio of good for the most people? If it's only good for you, then this is an egotistical consequential view. If it produces good for the most people, it's a utilitarian consequential view. Compare these questions to those posed by a non-consequential theory. Non-consequential theories state that other factors than the outcome, other factors than the consequence, must be taken into account when faced with an ethical dilemma. Going back to our factory example, if closing the factory means that lots of people will lose their jobs and that a whole community might suffer economically, then this must be considered and weighed against the outcome of cleaner air and water. There are different kinds of non-consequential theory. One is the golden rule. This states that you should treat others as you would wish to be treated, regardless of the outcome. Remember that scholarship we talked about earlier? How would you feel if you lost it because the committee president gave it to his best friend? Bad? Then don't let it happen if you're on a committee deciding scholarships. Another non-consequential theory states that a decision is good as long as you respect and follow certain duties, called the prima facie duties. These could include justice, generosity, or loyalty. Faced with difficult choices and internal conflict, these theories, these frameworks, I believe, clearly help us. This is the first step to long-term success. Now, let me go into more depth.